In this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about profit functions as parabolas. Now, we've talked about these in class a little bit, but I want to explain a little bit more because some people might need it a different way. So, I don't know if this is a different way or not, but I think the important things to know is that along the x-axis is always going to be items sold or subscriptions or something like that. It's a quantity where along the y-axis is the profit. So this is in dollars. This is how much profit you have. Or you could have it in pesos or lira or shekels. It does not matter. It depends on the problem, right? So here's what happens in most business operations, or many business operations, not all, but this is a very common practice. People start out with investing a certain amount of money, and the investment means that they have to make it back by selling products. At some point, the product maxes out its profit, and it starts coming back down to the x-axis. And I'm going to talk about these different points in terms of a business proposal and see what you think makes sense. So the important thing here is that each of the the x coordinates of each of these things, each x coordinate is something about items sold. So if we think about items sold in all these different spots, it's important to keep them in terms of a number like 5 items sold or 20 items sold or something like that. But they're items sold, not dollars. So for instance, the point down here, there's no items sold on this one over here, so that's always going to be 0. And for this one over here, it's going to be some amount, let's say it's 10, whatever that is. This means that you have to sell 10 items to break even. In other words, if you sell 5 items, you're not paying yourself back for how much you invested in the first place. So that's how many items. It could be that this number over here, let's just make something up. Let's say this number is 26. And that would say, let's make it 260 just to make it a little more interesting. If you sell 260 items, you've got to a maximum profit. And if you keep on going, you might get to the point where you have 500 items and you'll start losing money. And it could be that you're starting to lose money because you have to buy a new factory, or you have to buy a lot more material, or you have to buy a new machine, or you have to buy more people to pay for their labor, or something is going to change over time so that eventually you're going to end up spending more money and you're going to be losing money eventually. I know it seems counterintuitive to think that the more items you sell, you should be making more money. And that would be true in some scenarios if it's linear. But in many situations, and we'll see them in class a lot, what ends up happening is if you sell fewer items, you can charge more for them. But at a certain point, if you keep on making them, you're going to have to charge less for the items to be able to sell more. And so you try to come up with the perfect balance of selling more items, but making the most amount of money that you can, perhaps, if that's your interest. So this break-even point is at 10. This is the 260 items to make the most money, to make the highest profit, or I should say to maximize profit, right? Maximize profit, but it's not the profit itself, it's the number of items. And the 500 down here, these are items before you start losing money. Before you lose money, all right? Now the Y values are all in dollars. So over here, this is a negative amount. Let's say it's negative $1,000. Perhaps our product, we're going to have to invest $1,000 before we can make anything. So we're going to say that the investment, the initial investment, the starting point is going to be negative 1,000 to show that we're in the hole. We're not making a profit if we spent $1,000. If you think that you can spend $1,000 and that's a profit, then please give me $1,000 so that I can help you make a profit. All right, the next point over here where you break even is when you don't make any money. So if you don't make any profit. So you sell your items, you sell 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not until 10 items do you make your money back. to get your original investment back. So at this point, then you're starting to have a positive profit until at some point, maybe at $20,000, maybe $20,000 is where you make your most profit. I'm just making up numbers, so it is not exactly meaningful. But if you sell 260 items, then maybe our profit would be $20,000. But then you can see that the profit starts decreasing again until finally, at 500 products sold, you're back down to $0, being what your profit is. So I know that might not make sense that you'd lose money if you sell more items, but that is what actually happens in some cases. What I'd like you to note is that this is the y-intercept over here. This is an x-intercept. This over here is an x-intercept. And this over here is the vertex. The vertex is the highest amount. It's the profit, the highest profit you can come up with. So that's a little bit about how I explain profit functions, because every single one of these is the same. It's important to make sure you have your x values as items and your y values as dollars. If you're mixing them up, it's not going to make any sense.